Live from Boston, it's Keep Pound Den.
Wednesday, April 17th. Welcome back to the Keep Pound Den podcast, part of the Riot Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. I'm your host, Den, here at Keep Pound Den on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, however you want to get to me. Bobby's here as well. He's at Tacos and Slurpees. And you can listen to the podcast, subscribe, watch, whatever you guys want to do over at iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and over on theriotreport.com. Joining up again with our man Tripp Morgan this week. He's over at Panthers Source. And welcome to those of you joining on the Panthers Source feed tonight as well. Thanks for lending your feed to us, Tripp. And we'll get into why we've been on so much lately a little later in the program here. But let's get to the big thing, guys. The NFL schedule just dropped just about 10 minutes ago. That's where, actually half hour ago. Time flies when you're doing some tech stuff, huh? Good stuff. I mean, a lot of it has leaked. I got to say, more of it, I mean, not as much of it leaked as last year, I don't think. I feel like I knew the whole thing before the whole program was on, right? Or do you not agree with that?
I definitely agree with that, man.
Yeah? All right, yeah, because I felt like I knew the whole thing, but at least I do have the at least I did have some element of surprise this week. Again, we'll go ahead and put our topics up on the board here. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to some signings. We're going to get to the NFL draft. We're going to get to Russell Wilson's deal, what that means for Cam, all those fun things tonight. But let's kick it off with the schedule. Panthers, the Week 1 game against the Rams kind of came out a little earlier today, I think. But Bucs Week 2, Thursday, the second game of the year at Bank of America Stadium, divisional game on a Thursday. That to me seems weird. Does Thursday Night Football always start the second week of the season? That seems weird to me. No,
I don't know, man.
It definitely seems early for us.
Well, and the Panthers, again, looking at their Thursday record, if you haven't looked at it over the years, it's not great. It's actually 2-7 all time. And
right.
Usually the Thursday night team gets the advantage in these games, right? Well,
normally
the Panthers are 1-5 at home. So does that matter in going into this? Do you look at history? Do you look at how the Panthers have fared? I mean, we don't even have to go back that far to last year, the embarrassing Pittsburgh Steelers game. Not a team that really performs on Thursday night. Does that worry you that game is that quickly in the season?
I mean, to be honest with you, it does. For one simple reason, man. It's just, and I hate to beat a dead horse in a situation, but Ron Rivera has gotten to the point where he just doesn't prepare the guys. And it's not like one season or two seasons. This has been a consistent thing since he's been, leading this team. And it really worries me, to be honest with you. Normally when I hear certain records, I hear certain, situations pop up and we discuss topics. Like I kind of say, hey man, let's back away, from history for a moment. Let's talk about now. Let's live in the now. But history shows that Ron Rivera does not prepare this team well for Thursday night games. And it's not just not preparing the team and, you drop the ball late in the game, like literally, like you walk into the game as if it's a practice and you get thrashed. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just we lost because, Gano missed a field goal or somebody dropped a touchdown. You get thrashed. You know what I mean? And reminiscent of the Steelers game, unfortunately, TJ Watt with the hit to Cam Newton. We had a great opening drive, I believe it was. Our first drive was great. I remember Cam hitting CMC a few times, and boom. After that, it's like if there was a roof, it would have been blown off, from the blowout. But
and then it took one pass play, basically, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. And to be completely honest with
you, man,
the wheels
completely come off the bus.
There you go. That's my only gripe with Rivera. I feel like he doesn't prep the team the way he should. And luckily enough, it's against a team that I truly believe we can beat. So maybe that'll help out some.
Yeah, and I put it up on the side there. This coming out of us here at the Roaring Riot Report. If you do have your phone, go ahead and get that from whatever. I think Twitter is probably the easiest way. You can go ahead and download that Panthers schedule for your phone. Of course, week is it 7? The game after London is the bye week, so you do get 16 games there. Just looking at it, the Rams game. We'll start with that one, I guess. We shouldn't just jump to the Bucs game, but you get an angry team here. I'm kind of happy they don't have C.J. Anderson because maybe I buy too much into the fact that old players know too much about the team. But again, I kind of forgot C.J. Anderson went to the Lions. All this stuff just gets kind of mumbled jumbled here on draft time. But starting it off with the Rams, I think that's a good way to kind of just punch this team in the mouth right off the beginning. See what you got week one. Have a game to prepare for. Have a team that's, I think, angry, and has those weapons, and kind of really see what you are versus just cupcaking it. Not saying they did last year, but into the first 4 weeks of the season again. You do get Arizona week 3, but I think those first 2 games are something that's going to be really looked at going into in preseason, going into the season really as a true test. And I'd imagine that you'd want those games early versus late in the year, right, Tripp? I mean, does that's always something that I look at, is you don't want to have to win a game down the stretch against a team like maybe the Rams, even though you're at home. Said the same thing about the Patriots that year. Aren't too many cold weather games, which is good. So yeah,
you don't want to get into like the weaker teams early and then start. You think you're looking good, and then something like last year happens. Like that's something you have to worry about. And like you said, with the Rams, you're starting off strong right off the get-go. And if you want to talk historically, I'm pretty sure the stat was like if Carolina wins their opening game of the season, like the majority of the time of those years that they've done that they've had a above 500 record. So that's another big start. And like you said, it is the Rams. But also you talk about C.J. Anderson, it's a homecoming for running back Todd Gurley. So, he's also going to want to show out being he's healthy.
Yeah. And again, I think that's a good test for whatever the secondary will be. We'll get into that in the draft. Cooks and Kupp will be back. And I think that, you will get a full Rams team kind of looking to erase the last game they played, if you will. The one that counted, I should say. So, that's a good one. Of course, the big one, as you go down the schedule, the London one was kind of leaked out earlier in the day. I'm not sure what the exact reason was. Maybe because of the London time. That's probably why. But 9:30 a.m. Eastern over in London, Week 6, October 13th is the second time they'll play the Bucks. They get those 2 matchups out of the way pretty quickly in the first 6 games. It's at Tottenham, the new stadium, by the way, which is great. We'll be now looking forward to, I guess, going over that. That's a brand new stadium. I didn't even really know that. So that's the first time that a football game will be played in that stadium. And
I think Zach and them had to visit both places.
They did,
when they went over there.
We weren't really sure if it was going to be Wembley. Wembley holds a lot more people, but it is in the new Tottenham stadium. I'm not sure how I feel about a divisional game being on the road. I mean, I'm not on the road, sorry, being completely neutral like that. Is that do you buy anything into that? Because
for that kind of trip, I wouldn't.
Well, I'm just saying, because you look at these 2 Bucks games, you get a Thursday night game and you get a Sunday game in London. You don't really get a normal game against the Bucks this year, however you want to look at it. I mean, football is still football. The field doesn't change. And
Tampa could look at it as they don't get to play a home game against Carolina.
That's true, too.
Out of the 2.
Well, they didn't have a home game last year either. Panther fans were screaming more than Bucks fans were. So
there you go, Bobby.
We were there in Tampa. Unfortunately, that one didn't go our way. A couple weird flags in that one. I'll never forget that game.
Very weird.
But
Dante Jackson?
Yes, Dante Jackson flag. And then they, I think, the Hail Mary at the end, they brought in Cam to throw the first Hail Mary. Then they got closer to the end zone and brought in Heineke to throw that Hail Mary. So really just a weird game overall. Kind of not that hopes were too high, but that at least would have kept them in that funny playoff race we talked about. As every game that the Panthers lost, it seems like everyone else lost. So maybe drag that out a little longer than they should have. But anyway, again, on the right, you can check out that Panthers schedule over on the Roaring Riot Report. Go ahead and get that on your phone. Great work by our dude Jamie, making all those wonderful states masks for the Panthers. So and Kevin Ketchy too, of course. You don't have photos of the Panthers like that without our dude Kevin down there. So
what up, Kev?
Good stuff over there. But hey, let's get back to our topics, because we had some good things as well happen in Carolina this week. Kind of both kind of surprising to me. As the time went on, I wasn't sure if Kyle Love was going to be a Panther. I mean, I know that he was out there kind of, I don't know if it's the right word, testing the free agency, but just kind of no news on him. And him and Chris Hogan here from just right down the street here in Boston, both inked up for 2019, both pretty low risk deals. I mean, the Hogan deal this year is a max of $2 million, guys. He had a 3-year, $12 million deal, which was pretty backloaded by the Patriots. He made, I think, 3 or a little over 3 last year. So, I mean, for a 1-year deal on Chris Hogan, max of $2 million. That's a win-win. And what that does, Bobby, I was talking to you about this, is what does that really do to Torrey Smith now? So, because he kind of had a role on this team, and now where does Torrey really fall in? Because you mentioned to me, now we get a guy in Chris Hogan who's been there in multiple championship games, I believe. Has that experience, maybe not as long as Torrey Smith, but also, I would say, more of a playmaker on the field than Torrey Smith. I've watched Chris Hogan a lot here in New England. I think that he kind of got the weird end of the stick because, I mean, you get Josh Gordon here last year. You get Julian Edelman, kind of tough to find his place on that team, where I think that he falls into the Panthers very well. And I think him and Jarius Wright are going to play a serious, non-sexy fantasy football stat role on the Panthers. You know, he's not going to be that guy that you're going to start in fantasy, but he's going to be the guy that keeps that chain moving and maybe for a game-winning touchdown. We'll start with you, Bobby. Thoughts on Chris Hogan? That kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, I'm excited to have him. You know, first and foremost, I mean, it came out of nowhere because, honestly, if you ask me, he was on the market far too long. He should have been signed by now. However, when I take a look at the Torrey Smith question and the Torrey Smith concept that you brought up there, to be completely honest with you, man, I think Torrey Smith is really getting the short end of the stick in a lot of these talks. Now, I understand he makes $5 million this season. However, I do believe he is an asset to this team, whether people want to realize it or not. You know, the guy did have an injury last season, and when he finally came around, the quarterback position was very, very questionable. Okay, so let's not pretend as if Torrey Smith is just some bum, you know, that you know was traded to this team, and he's some washed-up guy. The guy can play football. You know, I'm quite sure he'll be healthy this season.
Yeah, and he was injured. Yes, that's true, Trey.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, however, the Chris Hogan situation, this guy really intrigues me. He reminds me of literally Christian McCaffrey in the slot. That's what he reminds me of, and he can make those plays. Now, he may not be as elusive and as agile as Christian McCaffrey. However, he can make those moves, and he has great hands. I could see him and Jarius Wright splitting those third down reps. I'm excited to have him, to be honest. And whatever happens with the wide receiver position, I think we're in one of the best positions we've been in the wide receiver position in a minute. So whatever happens, we'll end up with a great wide receiver either way.
Yeah, Tripp, thoughts on Chris Hogan? Again, I don't think you can say a bad thing about Chris Hogan, right?
No, not right now anyway. I mean, come next all season, who knows what you're going to say about him. But no, right now, I think it was honestly, I didn't even realize he was still a free agent.
Me
like
neither.
Bobby said, it's honestly weird. Yeah. And even Chris Hogan said they never planned for them to, you know, still be at this point in free agency, which is ultimately what kind of led to him falling to Carolina. Now, you know, you can look at that and say, well, he didn't really want to be here, or you can look at it and say, he chose us over the Jets, and there was another team involved, and I can't remember who it was.
The Giants.
Buffalo, maybe.
Giants.
The Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up going with Carolina over those two. So that might, you know, you can pick and choose that apart as you will. But I do like him. Like Bobby said, he's got more of that elusiveness, you know, in the slot. He can play outside. He's had big games and shown his hands as well. He might struggle some against the press, but he's going to get more separation than some of these bigger guys we've had in the past. And I'm just glad we're finally moving on from that. Like we're getting guys that can make plays, that are playmakers with the ball in their hands and can make these moves. And I've said it I've said it 1,000 times since we drafted Kelvin Benjamin. Separation to me is always more important, and it was very refreshing to hear Marty Hurney mention that in the press conference today.
Yeah, and you know, I get some comments here coming in from all our social networks here from Twitter. You know, that Torrey was brought in to help stretch the field. And one thing I can tell you, because I always say that just being here in Boston, you literally can't go watch football and not see the Patriots on. They'll make sure that they'll put them on the biggest screen everywhere. So I do actually watch a lot of Patriots out of the corner of my eye. And one thing about Chris Hogan is he can be that sneaky guy that goes deep. As far as they had the Edelmans there, like I said, Gordon may have kind of taken his spot there, but there's a lot of plays to Chris Hogan from Brady and the Patriots that he was a pretty big deep threat. And coming in from Twitter here, that Torrey was brought in to help stretch the field. I don't know if Hogan's not that guy. I mean, sure Torrey has more speed, but Hogan, pretty good route runner, kind of that under the radar guy. If you get a Torrey Smith out there, obviously you're going to be looking for that deep stuff. But I think you can find that in Chris Hogan as well, and that's where I'm kind of confused as to, not really confused, but I'm more curious as to how they're going to use all of these receivers, because now you actually have a pretty group of different receivers,
Yeah,
and
for sure. It's the first time in a while.
To more of Bobby's point earlier, I didn't hit on the Torrey Smith thing, but the more of Bobby's point about Torrey being a factor on this team, whether or not he's getting paid $5 million or not, I think that's like big time in leadership. Whereas Chris Hogan, yes, he comes in and he has the experience. He's got 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots. But I don't see Chris Hogan necessarily being the leader that a Torrey Smith would be in that younger locker room of guys. So I think that's a big deal with that whole issue. It is, Bobby mentioned him getting a short end of the stick in some cases, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And people say this is $5 million is too much to pay for that. Well, maybe, but we're not in that locker room. We don't know what goes on there. Right. And I think it's, like I said before, I think it's mainly with the leadership, not necessarily the overall experience of going just to Super Bowls. Like, you can go pick anybody that's been to a Super Bowl and put them on your team. It doesn't mean anything. Leadership qualities are what they're talking about there.
Yeah, and don't get, I like Torrey Smith, but I think that there's a lot of the argument there is when you have as many holes as a team like the Panthers do, maybe $5 million for leadership goes down the totem pole.
Well, Dan, in reference to when people say that, here's the thing. When you say, all right, cut $5 million, you can save that, you can free it up. Here's the thing. You have to have a target, right? You want to find your target first. You don't just go say, I'm going to cut a guy who could play a key role on this team at some point in the season or play a role in getting somebody here, right? Just like you did with Eric Reed. You don't just say, we're just going to cut that and free it up now just in case for later. No, you play your cards right. You go through the draft, then you analyze the free agent market, and you say, okay, who do I want? All right, what cuts need to happen to make it happen? And if that's the case, then I'm okay with doing that. But I'm not okay with just prematurely cutting somebody just to see the money free up. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense. You don't it's just like having possessions at home.
And that's why, if anything like that did happen, it's not going to happen soon. I mean, there's months, I think that's a last minute thing. You don't do that with a backup plan just to say I have $5 million more dollars. I totally get that. I totally get that. But when it comes down to that,
that's what a lot of people keep saying.
Well, actually, Marty today, said that the team does have several options to create space if they needed. That was reported by Jordan Rodriguez today, and the understanding there from her, is that includes restructures and or cuts, but only the latter if they if they need to. They do like the group they have, but Marty saying that, I mean, there are other people that could have been targeted as Denora Cersei. Multiple people on the team, don't get me wrong, not just Torrey Smith, but I wouldn't count him out of that category if you start getting down to it, and we'll see. But
it's like, what is $5 million really going to get you right now? Now, it can go towards something like maybe an Alan Bailey if you decide down the road that you really need him in that scheme.
And that's what I was going to get to.
Me and you are on the same page that would be a big help. But it's not like $5 million is necessarily going to. I guess that could bring him here 1 year potentially. But I think there's a ton of options to free up that space, like Marty has said. A lot of people, as fans, we just drift to the first guy that nobody saw stats from last year, and that's Torrey. But it's also not fair to Torrey because he played 4 games last year.
Yep.
And one of them was with a bum knee. Yep. I mean, so
no, it's you. That's the right way to put it. I think that it's not fair to Torrey is totally valid and true, and I just think that what I said to you, Tripp, today was, if maybe I just say this every year and it never happens, but I always want the Panthers to draft a safety, and I said if they can grab a safety, and you can let go of Cersei, and you need a little bit more money to bring in someone like Bailey, who I don't know what happened with. There was a visit, no one really knows what else, but I would rather a starting, youngster safety, ball hawk, early round. You'll see my mock draft come out soon, but and Bailey over Torrey Smith and Denora Cersei. So that's where we were going with that. But who knows what the moves will actually be? So
who knows who can contribute more immediately with that money? I mean,
yeah. So on the other end of this, we talked about Kyle Love there for a minute, but Kyle Love did get the third best overall PFF grade for the Panthers defense. Very kind of under the radar kind of guy there, almost like just almost like the way that Star was here. You don't really see it on the stat sheet so much, but Kyle Love came in here, provided a lot of depth. Poe, this uncertainty there. Really not bad to say about Kyle Love rather. Ron said today during the draft press conference that he really likes his versatility and being able to play in different sets. So I love that signing. I didn't realize that he was the third best, defensive grade over Peppers, and I think it's Kuechly, and then
was it hard?
Was it who?
It's not difficult to be the third.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, was it hard? No. But for a guy that doesn't start, I would say, no.
It's not difficult.
Okay, maybe that's true.
Yeah, Kawan didn't even have a great year last year. I mean,
yeah.
All
right, fine. You guys.
I get it.
I was trying to give the guy some credit. I mean, come on.
I mean, somebody has to be third.
All right. That's
I think
fine.
It more so speaks to the point of where that defense was in the trenches last year.
Yeah. Okay.
That
might be
a short Kyle Love, by the way.
Yeah, that might be the pessimistic way to look at it. Was he should be third? Maybe is what you're saying.
I mean, I'm not knocking Kyle. I love Kyle Love, by the way. For anybody that's listening and questioning, I love Kyle Love.
Yeah.
He's great. I love him. However, third on this team is one of those things where somebody has to be number 3. So, but yeah, I'm glad to have him back. I think it was a smart move. And to be completely honest with you, I think, a lot of people are praising Marty and Rivera, but I think we need to start praising Tep. Because if you notice, everything that Tep said he wanted, they're now doing. Tep was very, very vocal in the offseason, and this stuff is starting to happen. So I don't know if anybody's paying any attention. Everything he said he wanted, he's getting.
True, and I heard
let's go.
They mentioned that he was very very vocal, or very involved rather, in the draft process today in the draft presser, which we can get to now. Let's talk about the draft a lot of it actually. So much.
That's a horrible picture you have of me, by the way, Dan.
It's a great photo. What do you mean?
Charles Barkley with a beard.
Dude, you look fantastic.
Oh,
look at you, just staring into the sun.
Dan, I gotta
no,
get you
not into
picture,
that.
Man. I guess I have lost weight since then, so maybe that's it. But I look like a potato, man.
Oh, you look great.
Oh my God.
You look great. We're gonna use that one.
Charles Barkley wish he had those locks on that face.
Do you swing a golf club like Charles Barkley? Because that's where we start getting worried.
That is the worst.
Okay.
It's all right. You can still beat Den at top though.
Maybe. Hey, the draft's next week. This is our last show before the draft. So many questions. Where do the Panthers go with 16? There's trade ups. There's trade downs. A lot happened at the draft press conference today. I pointed out on Twitter a few things that I liked and didn't like, and it's tough to type in all the, what is it, 220 character, whatever it is now. Didn't get to say everything I wanted to, but one thing that I liked, and this is because I'm not on the QB2 train, was how Ron was talking about how he's liking the development of Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke and how they've both developed. That, to me, kind of said that they're not going to reach for a quarterback, which I think is the worst-case scenario. If you want to take one in the later rounds, I'm not going to be that upset about it. But I did like that he pointed out those two quarterbacks, showing that they kind of haven't given up on them. I know there's all the Will Grier talk, other quarterbacks, whoever, I don't know who they're looking at later in the draft. But I guess it's also smokescreen season, so I don't know how much you should buy into a lot of this stuff. But Ron also hinted at adding another running back. I just put in my who he wants to mimic Christian McCaffrey. I just submitted my 7-round mock draft. I guess 6th round technically if you're a Panthers fan. But in spoiler alert, it does include a running back. So check that out.
It's a good one.
Yeah, check that out on Monday. That'll be out on the Riot Report along with all the other writers.
Dan, you still believe what Rivera talking about, man?
Do I still believe Ron Rivera?
He told you for 6 weeks Cam Newton's shoulder was fine. And
and he also said
what he said?
He also said they were comfortable with the safety group last year,
Bingo.
like 45 minutes before they signed Eric Reed.
Dude, literally, I think I have a notepad around here somewhere on the Mac somewhere that I had a list of Ron Rivera's lies. I gotta find it, but it's hilarious, like literally from day one. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just, I'm going with what they said today on April 17th. I didn't like that he said they're happy with the safety group. That's not fun. But one thing, one thing back on the quarterbacks is that, was it Ron or I think it was Ron? They asked about. Someone asked about giving Cam Newton competition and how he's never had competition here. He's never had a guy right on his heels, maybe becoming the starter over him. And Ron came back and said that Cam doesn't need to be pushed. Like they don't think that Cam, doesn't give 100% effort. They don't really look at that quarterback to push him for the starting role. He said that they just need someone ready to play. And to me, I don't know. I feel like you have that already. So, but I did like the fact that I don't know that they're not looking at quarterbacks because they're worried about Cam. Is kind of what Ron, what I took from that. Do you get anything from that?
I don't know, man. Maybe Tripp does, but I don't know, man. My question is, at what point do we start thinking maybe Cam doesn't sign that contract after 2020? Like, or maybe his shoulder is never right again. Or, like, those are just my questions. I'm not saying to draft a guy to replace him right now. I'm just saying, like, again, as I said before, proactive. I'm not saying to, bring in competition either. I'm just saying the what ifs do exist. The what ifs have happened. So at what point do we think, what if sign a quarterback who's out there, or, because to be completely honest, Heineke ain't going to cut it. I'm sorry, he's not going to cut it. Kyle Allen, I believe he will. Yes. Kyle Allen, I believe he can actually cut it. Heineke, no. But at some point, we have to draft a quarterback in the next 3 years, we need to draft a quarterback to potentially start learning behind Cam and to eventually be his replacement. And
I completely agree with that. The second round hype talk is just like, you're not giving Cam a chance here. Like, you're basically saying, you're gone. Like, that's how I would take it if I'm Cam Newton. Like, you're gone in 2020. And, Bobby, to your point, people do need to go ahead and, like, start thinking of life after Cam Newton, because it's very realistic that he's gone after 2020. You're not wrong there. I mean, if he comes out this year, I said it on the show with Edgar last night, Marcel from the Charlotte Observer had a good article out about how this coming season for Cam Newton was going to be so big. Because if he comes out and his shoulder's messing up again, he has to go down. Carolina, if they draft that QB, Carolina is going to have to, they're going to have to put him in, and you're going to have to look to the future. Like, we can't afford to pay this guy. The market's only going up on QBs. And, I mean, these are all facts like Panthers fans have to take into account. But the second round talk of like a Will Grier, no, I mean, that right there is just that's too strong for my take. I'm not, we talked about this on a pod a couple weeks ago, I think, too. I'm not opposed to drafting another quarterback just that high with so many glaring holes and still needing help on the left side of the offensive line to help Cam. I think we all agree that would be a little bit high. I mean. Yeah, no, and then that's not a rip on Grier either. I mean, he's a good player. But we need a lot more good players in other spots. So, again, I just submitted my draft to the Riot Report. It'll be out Monday. When we talk about pick 16, though, I think this is one of those drafts where Connor Orr was with us from Sports Illustrated 2 weeks ago, and he said the way that the deepness of this class at certain positions could make this a draft where you could do a mock draft of the first round and get 0 of them right. There's not, I mean, maybe 1 of them right, sure. Yeah. Or 2. But there's nothing really set in stone. And I think that, I have it up there on the graphic. I think player availability is so big, In my mock draft, I picked an offensive player at 16. I'll leave it at that. And that's just honestly mostly because of the board. The guys aren't there. And 16 is such a tough spot. And, we're going to have a jar where you have to put maybe $1 in it if you mention week 17 against the Saints, because we all get that. We can't change that. They pick 16. It is what it is. You can't complain about that anymore. But I think that pick is really going to come down to kind of I don't want to say a last-minute decision,
but really kind of an unknown between that, again, 10 and 15 picks. I feel like you could lose a couple of your guys just a few picks before you. So so I did put in an offensive player there at 16, but
Well, Sheena mentioned earlier, for guys at Sheena_Marie3 on Twitter, she mentioned earlier about them possibly going BPA, best player available. So that's also out there too.
I mean, I think that's kind of almost what it is in a way at this point, because, I mean, you also
could be a linebacker.
Well, it's funny you say that, Tripp, because I was just looking at the outside linebacker depth chart. While we're on that topic, thanks for bringing that up. I was screaming for the Panthers.
Nice transition,
not screaming, but I was saying the Panthers really need to look at this linebacker area more than you might think. The problem is, I mean, maybe the draft isn't loaded with them as far as compared to your other needs. But no, you're rolling into this season with Jermaine Carter Jr. as your outside backer one. I mean, you don't have David Mayo anymore, so you got Andre Smith, Antoine Williams, and Jared Norris as your depth right now. If Jermaine Carter Jr. doesn't work out. Now, I know in a 3-4, you don't need that three, linebacker
right.
with Shaq, Kuechly and Davis, but does that worry you guys more than a lot of people are talking? Because a lot of people aren't talking about linebacker right now.
I mean, does it worry me? No. I think Jermaine Carter Jr. is going to be an absolute stud. The only thing I'm worried about is if he goes down, like if he gets an injury. Outside of that, I think he's going to be a stud. He's actually going to probably play better than Thomas Davis would have played this season, to be completely honest with you. However, eventually we do have to start looking at that. We've lost linebackers over the last couple of years. It seems like teams have grown to understand that we are a linebacker, group over here. So they started to pull people away, AJ Klein, guys like that. So what I would honestly say, maybe look at him in 4th round, 5th round, somewhere around there. I'm okay with them taking a linebacker, completely fine with that. But you remember when we took Jermaine Carter Jr. and Andre Smith, everybody got all up in arms and they got upset saying, what are you doing? Why are you drafting 2 linebackers? Well, this is why they drafted 2 linebackers, guys. Here we are in 2019, and we see why they did it. So all of you who were trying to crucify Marty, you need to apologize.
Well, and
this is what he saw.
That and Thomas Davis retired, told them he was retiring 2 different times. So at some point you have to start planning for his future, which was one of the big reasons why, granted, yes, it's a sad day to let Thomas Davis go, but football-wise, I think that's the move. You just do want to make sure that you're still ready to go. But it's gonna be a good one. I think I don't have them picking a linebacker. My bad, because I want them to sign Jamie Collins. That's how I make my drafts. I say
I still want that to happen. Now, if Torrey Smith is cut for Collins, I'm on board with that.
Yeah. You gonna say something there, Tripp?
No, I was just saying. Yeah, I mean that would make sense, I guess.
Yeah. And as it stands, Josh Klein did tweet out, as it stands, the Panthers currently have the least salary cap room in the NFL, though, mind you. Not even $2 million. That's $1.762 million. That'll change on June 2nd, of course, but then they have to sign those rookies. So not a ton of money right now. Maybe my Jamie Collins idea isn't going to happen, just like all of my other Panthers ideas.
I mean, we got guys we can restructure too, man.
Yeah. Hey, get some comments coming in here. I can't wait to see us at Topgolf Thursday. I would love to go to Topgolf. That'd be fun. But now that we are here, Tripp, I think this would be a good time to kind of transition into a little announcement that we have. We are going down to Nashville, and any Panthers fans that are going down to Nashville, we're actually going to be broadcasting from the official Roaring Riot Panthers bar, which is the Tin Roof on Demembrian Street. It's actually just literally 2 minutes in a car on the same street of the draft, pretty much right up the hill. It's going to be obviously way too hectic down by the stage, but it is literally a 2-minute drive from the stage up the hill. We're going to be broadcasting there Thursday and Friday afternoon, and the Music City Riot is out there. That is the official Nashville group. Oh, that's not them. Sorry, wrong graphic. There we go. They're the Music City Riot out in Nashville. We're going to be up there at the Tin Roof with them. They're having a big draft party. That party starts at 5, but we're going to be there about noon to 3 on Thursday and Friday. We get a number of guests coming by, talking with us on the phone, both in person and on the phone. Some of the guys from FNZ. We're going to have Sheena, who he was talking about, Bobby, all going to be joining us there, and we're going to be doing it all live as well. So if you are going to Nashville, we definitely ask you to stop into the Tin Roof. We're going to get a big photo of Panthers fans. We're going to take over that bar and that area. and it's going to be me and you, Tripp, down there. Bobby's going to call into us too, but we'll talk to
one
you.
Day I'll get to meet Bobby.
Yeah.
One of these days.
So the next,
I feel like I'm the black sheep, man.
The next time we do this, Tripp, you'll either be on my right or my left. I haven't decided how I want to talk to you.
Thank God for technical difficulties.
Yeah. So. Anyway, again, let me put this just to mention that again. Anyway, the tin roof on it's Demembrian. It looks like Demon Brewing, so it's not a brewing company. It's actually the name of the road that it's on. It's pronounced Demembrian. It's up on Music Row, which is basically at the top of the hill of Nashville, right on that strip. Dude, they have some crazy stuff going on, by the way. If you are going to Nashville, and I mean the draft. We're gonna have some good stuff going on at the tin roof. Some giveaways, some Roaring Riot giveaways and such there. So definitely stop by. Definitely come say hello to us. We want to say hello to you, and you can hang out with us for a couple hours. But as far as the NFL draft, there is a free concert. Tim McGraw playing on Friday night. Dierks Bentley is playing live on Saturday night. They have music throughout the day from 12:30 to 4 p.m. every day on the strip.
Imagine that.
The setup is amazing. Yeah, I don't know why. I never pegged Nashville as a music city. Weird.
Well, it's Music City, so.
Trust me, I've been to Nashville many times. But no, they have it right outside the stadium's across the river. That will host the NFL draft experience. If you've been to a draft before, if you haven't been to a draft before, let's start there. Definitely hit up a draft. It's probably one of the most fun, like I say, times of the season. Granted, last year kind of sucked. It was inside AT&T Stadium, which I thought was a terrible idea. It was cool to be in the stadium. It was cool to be on the field. The fan sections down the front were cool. But really, I mean, the fraction of people that got into the draft compared to the people that wanted to come and be part of it was really kind of a weird closed door to the public. But here in Nashville, it's wide open. And in Philly, it was wide open, Bobby. We had a great time. It's going to be, I think, even more fun in Nashville just because of the way that street is set up. So,
well, it's supposed to rain on the 25th.
Oh, here we go. Jeez.
I mean, I'm just
Bobby, I just go on about 45 minutes of incredible fun things and why people should come hang out with us, and you just drop in the Debbie Down. We're gonna call you Bobby Downer.
I'm sorry, man. I just had to throw that in there. I always got to check the weather for stuff, man. So
Bobby's
it's supposed to rain.
Bobby's that guy that's like, yeah, sounds fun. I'll be there. It's probably gonna rain though.
There's only like 30% chance, so you guys may be
Bobby,
right.
You can't check the weather the week before, dude.
I have to.
Anyway, well, the good thing is we're going to be down in Nashville. We're going to be getting all the photos, and we're also going to touch base with the guys from the Riot Report that are going to be at Bank of America Stadium. So both kind of scenes will talk to each other, and everything that we do both down in Nashville and at BOA is going to be going up on the Roaring Riot and Riot Report, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff all night. And Panther Source, too. We're going to be doing this live down there. So your audience trip will be brought in as well. So pumped to do this.
If you can't find this coverage somewhere, it's on you. It's not on us.
Yeah, if you missed the coverage of us down in Nashville, we can't help you because it's going to be probably annoyingly posted everywhere. But anyway, come hang out with us at the Tin Roof. It's going to be a good time. Well, let's get to this final thing here because we were talking about Cam Newton there a minute ago. Russell Wilson decided to come online from his bed with Ciara, which is kind of weird, and announced that he has signed it, and which was hilarious because I don't know if you saw his teammates making fun of him and doing that. But anyway, he came on and said that he had signed the deal with Seattle. It is a 4-year deal, $107 million guaranteed. He can make up to $140 million. First of all, before we get into this, how this affects the QB market, because this isn't the number one deal. Matt Ryan's, I think, is still the number one deal, right? I believe. Anyway, whatever.
Actually, they said he's the highest paid NFL player now.
Russ, really?
That's what Bleacher Report said, yeah.
Either way, looking at this, I mean, looking at the state that Seattle is in right now, who wins in this deal? I mean, Seattle now has this guy for 4 years. But Russ has to kind of hope that this team can rebuild. And not rebuild, but they did beat us last year. But you know what I mean. I mean, they're definitely not the Seahawks they used to be.
Right.
Is this a bad deal for him?
Not for him.
Sorry. I mean, as far as him winning football games, I guess maybe he doesn't care. But
I mean, I'm sure he cares. I see Russ as a competitor.
could Russ have gone to a better situation, I guess is what I mean, because that Giants job, I don't know if it was even offered, but I think Russell Wilson in New York would have been pretty scary. You pair him up with Saquon, get Shepard over there.
Still don't have an offensive line.
It's true, but
yeah,
is Seattle still the place for him?
I think it is, man. To be completely honest with you, he just reminds me of that guy who will retire in Seattle. I don't see Russ playing until like old age, like most guys. I see him retiring early, at a younger age, should I say, not early. But I don't see New York as a better position than the Seahawks. I don't see that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think they're in a better coaching situation, and they know how to work. They've been to 2 Super Bowls with Russell Wilson. They know what works with him in that offense. Obviously, they've done well defensively over the years since Pete Carroll's been there. I think situationally it's good, even though, there were reports coming out saying that he wanted to go to New York and this and that, and he may have wanted to get out of Seattle, but you can't ever believe that stuff until it actually happens. He also said he wasn't going to sign past the deadline. And then 24 hours after the deadline, he was signing this big contract. Like, no, money talks. If I come and offer you $200 million, you're going to take $200 million. I don't care if it's a week after the deadline. Like,
right.
So, I think Seattle, as bad as I hate to say it, because obviously we've had some great games with them, some tough losses against them, some great wins against them. But I think Seattle is the spot for Russell Wilson. Like Bobby said, I could see him retiring in Seattle. He's done so much for that city, and it's been a good career for him so far. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I have it up on the screen here. Actually, I took this from Joan, our friend Joan. If you're a Panthers fan, you know Joan. What's up, Joan? I stole your tweet from your photo, but Joan was quick to point out that Russell Wilson did post this on Instagram. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The NFL posted this on Instagram about the deal. You see Quan Short in there, but you also see QB1 Cam Newton, which with a lot of clapping emojis. Yeah. So, I think the bigger deal when it comes to Carolina is, what does this mean for Cam Newton? Bobby, you mentioned that past 2020. Is this still a spot for him as far as he's concerned? I'm sure the team wants to keep him here. Seeing the money, Cam's still on a pretty team-friendly deal. Does this deal, and I guess this is going to keep happening, so it's kind of inevitable with quarterbacks, but does this deal make you a little nervous for what happens with that Cam contract?
Yes and no, to be completely honest with you. It will make me nervous about anybody, at the age of 31. Anything can happen. So I personally think that we're going to be walking into a situation that's going to be tough. I know the fan base is going to be split 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if the front office will be split 50-50. And with the fact that you're already hearing rumblings about them, having meetings with quarterbacks, interviewing quarterbacks, I'm not stressed about it. I think the proper thing to do is to reward Cam Newton for all of the things he's been through, being here, the warrior he is, the fighter he is, and I believe he deserves to get it. But I do believe this season and next season determines everything. If he ends up injured again, somehow, knock on wood, if he just has bad Cam years, I don't see them offering him much. I can see them, what many may see as a low ball figure if he doesn't have 2 good years back to back. But hopefully things go well, man, and we'll have a reason to reward him.
Yeah. And the other thing is, before the 2015 season happened, the off season prior to that is when he got that, 5-year deal, and people were like, "Whoa, Cam Newton is way overpaid," and that deal was worth what, $103 million. Looking back at that now, it's laughable. Like you said, this is I don't even think he's top 10 in the league now, and paid quarterbacks. I think that's right. I read somewhere. So
sounds about right.
Yeah. He's on a very team-friendly deal right now, but it's like you said, this Russell Wilson deal is jacking prices up. The market changes so much every year, and like Bobby just said, and we said earlier in the show, the next 2 years are going to determine these things. Russell Wilson's 30. He just got this paid deal. Cam's health is going to determine a lot of this. Russell Wilson has had a pretty healthy career for the most part. There's going to be so many factors, but I'm hoping he comes back healthy. And if not, maybe if they go the contingency plan route in the draft, we got to hope something works out. I'd love to see Cam here for the long term, stay healthy, and we see them build more around him as they've started to do these last 2 seasons, Whether a lot of people aren't completely satisfied with it or not is beside the point. But they are finally starting to address those issues.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's people are putting in the comments here that this is a big year for him, and you pointed that out there, Bobby, as well. It's almost like a contract year. He's got a not that he has anything to prove, but it's almost like that
he does.
No, what Cam has to prove is not his level of play. It's the ability to stay out there and be consistent and be a long-term option. If he just goes out there and has, I don't know, I think that if he goes out there and just has kind of an off year and whatever, they're not gonna let him go. But if he doesn't look right, you know what I mean? If he worries you about the future, and I don't want to say like get hurt, but I mean just even like maybe if he doesn't look like he has it anymore, or like that arm is kind of dying, they were calling it dead arm, that's something to worry about, But if he can just play Cam Newton football, be himself, and not give you anything to worry about, then I think that as the Panthers, they should want to bring him back. So it is kind of
I don't know, Dan. I don't know.
You're on a different side than me, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm on a different side, man. I mean, this money is different, bro. I mean, this isn't that $103 million.
You're at the point where you have to give the quarterbacks that money, or I mean, this he knows that he can get that elsewhere.
Where's Carolina? And we kind of hit on this, I guess, as well. There's plenty of ways to do it, but where's Carolina in 2 years? It's going to take a lot to free up that kind of money.
And then they got to
there's ways to structure
year, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now, well, I'm not going to jump that far ahead, but yes. Yeah, where you get that money, you got other guys you got to pay. Shaq Thompson's coming up. I honestly think Vernon Butler's out the door at this point. And that he'd be a big contract anyway. But Shaq Thompson is a potentially pretty hefty contract depending on this year. And I think he's going to thrive in that more 3-4 style of defense. But, yeah, you got Luke Kuechly and then Cam Newton. That's going to be a lot of money shelling out if you decide to go that route. Or will they draft a quarterback and do like some other teams have done and try to build around the quarterback finally with a cheap contract, which was what they should have done with Cam initially. But the past is the past, and unfortunately, we can't change it at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, here's my thing, man. I'm not saying don't pay Cam because I can hear people now losing their mind. I'm not saying don't pay Cam. Yeah, literally, man. Everybody takes stuff out of context, but
you're right.
What I'm saying is he can't just come in and have a Cam Newton year. Like, you can't look good week 1 and week 2 and then subpar weeks 3 through 6. Like, those 175-yard games, that's not going to cut it for this contract. You have to be in your prime at this moment. You have to be the best you that you can be. None of those stringy games where you're bad for weeks. Like, we expect you to have an off game here and there, but we're at the point now where we cannot afford to see Cam Newton have those bad weeks consecutively. Like, he's going to have to be the best version of him that he can be. And that's all I was saying, because when this money comes up, understand that when we tie Cam Newton to this money and then we turn around the following season and tie Luke Kuechly to this money, we are stuck for a while.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that's all I'm saying.
No, and I'm kind of agreeing and I'm disagreeing with you. My point is, like, he doesn't have to come out here and have an MVP season either. He doesn't have to have the best season he's ever had. Right? I mean, as long as
they go out and go to the playoffs. I mean, yeah.
So I mean, that's all I was saying was he can have a I don't want to use the word mediocre, but I mean, as long as he doesn't worry you, like as David Tepper, like as long as he doesn't look like an investment that worries you, I think you got to give him the money.
If he can look like the Cam Newton pre-injury last season, but also being able to take those shots down the field, I'm fine. I'm not saying he has to be 2015 Cam. I'm just saying if he can sustain what we saw before the shoulder injury and be able to complete those balls downfield, he's definitely worth the contract. But again, that's an if. And I believe in Cam Newton. I'm one of his biggest supporters. You guys know that. But at the end of the day, I'm a fan of the Carolina Panthers first. Okay, so
exactly.
I'm more focused on the situation of where money will be tied up in. So that's my whole situation there.
And that's our newest segment. Bobby hates Cam Newton.
I love tackle.
I had to pass it to you, Bobby.
Flipped the table
that used to be my
table.
segment. Hey, I'll tell you one thing. Panthers reported for the off-season spring workouts this week. Cam's bikes just keep getting better. I love this new bike he has on the screen. I know you guys can't see it, but it's basically like a motorbike or dirt bike that you pedal. Like, I need one of those. Like, where?
That's pretty dope.
It's kind of like, the Joker in the first Batman. Like, where does he get all these wonderful toys? Like, where does Cam get these things? I need to be better on the internet. So
both of them have something in common. It's called money.
There you go.
That's true. Yeah, that thing doesn't look like it's a cheap one. But yeah, good stuff. Good times. Thanks for hopping on with us, guys. Again, we do have Tripp with us. We're on Panthers Source Facebook tonight. We're also on the Riot Report stuff. Also on our Twitter, we'll be doing this next week down in Nashville. Some of the going back to the schedule. I'm sorry, I don't have a graphic. I just have it in front of me, but I'll go ahead and at least change our bottom graphic there. But you get some notable revenge games this year that are going to be fun to watch. Kirk Cousins plays the Redskins. Le'Veon Bell against the Steelers. Jordan Howard against the Bears. Justin Houston goes back to the Chiefs. He's on the Colts now. Terrell Suggs, I didn't even realize, signed with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Khalil Mack going back to the Raiders. That's a big one. Do you guys get when that game was? That must be a primetime game. No? Look that up for me. I don't have these in front of me. It's too many things to go through. Vontez Burfict going back to the Bengals. Who cares? Don't like him. C.J. Mosley going to the Ravens. Earl Thomas, of course, going to the Seahawks. Maybe he can have a pick six with maybe a middle finger while he runs in. That's what he kind of did last year. So
Bears versus Raiders is in London.
It is. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I only looked at our London game. Sorry.
And it's at noon on Fox.
Okay.
I don't know if that's London time or our time.
Really? Because, okay, so and is the Giants-Redskins game also in London? No.
I have to pull the...
Why does it say verse/at? Oh, because they hadn't announced it yet. Never mind. Sorry. Then I'm just looking at a weird pre-schedule notable games here. But, yeah, Landon Collins will play the Giants as well. The schedule is weird because it's not like they're, like, dropping all like a surprise on us in 16 games. You know what the games are. You just don't know when they are, right?
Right.
And I think that, when you start looking at, like, people were saying that on Twitter that it's not a big deal, but, like, when you start looking at people like Zach, the fans that are going to travel with it to anything, let alone the Roaring Riot, but also you look at your team travel. The Panthers traveled the least in 2018, and they certainly travel a lot more in 2019. We were going through it there before we went on the air here, but, you at least got San Francisco at home, but, you are going to London. You do, San Francisco on the road, I'm sorry. Then you go to Arizona, Houston, Green Bay. New Orleans was the furthest they went west last year. They, of course, go there this year. And then Indy. You don't get a lot of those East Coast away games that they had this year. So we've seen this team struggle when they travel a lot. That Houston, going to Arizona, then going to Houston is probably maybe the worst travel they have, besides home games, of course. And then, of course, London, but you get the bye after that. So, I don't know. I guess I'm not too concerned with the travel of the team, even though there is, some West Coast games, and at least going past the middle of the country this year for the Panthers. So we'll see how I thought no travel might have helped out last year. It seemed like it really didn't matter. Some of those games
week
on the
8
East
on.
Coast.
From week 8 on, they're home and away every other week. Home and away. Home and away. Home and away.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Anyway, closing the season at home against the Saints. At least that game's at home. I don't like when those games are on the road. You do have the Falcons on the road towards the end of the year, but Seattle and Colts in there between the two. I don't know. I don't mind the travel too much as far as the team goes. Of course, I know that I'm excited for the Arizona game. I love Arizona. Like just the state. That's where I got a hole in one, so I have to shout them out everywhere. And I also have to shout out that I got a hole in one in golf. I actually hit it once and it went in, so I got it in Arizona.
The Tiger.
Yeah, I have a flag. So good stuff. But of course, San Francisco. Don't really want to go see Levi's Stadium, but I guess I will. I'll look at it as where Seth Rollins won the belt versus the other event that happened there. So.
Superstition thing for those people that believe in that kind of thing. Fun fact from Bill Both he put out there.
That's me.
Okay. So they're closing at home for only the second time in Ron Rivera and Cam Newton era. The only other time was 2015. So there you go.
Boom.
There's your superstition for the night.
Listen, who put that out there?
That both?
Bill Both. You know who?
Man,
Yeah.
listen. I love Bill, but if all Panther fans can listen, I love all of you Panther fans, but please, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, do me a favor. Let's separate ourselves from the 2015 season for a moment.
Hot
Because
take.
every year since then, we've had, hey guys, you remember 2015? You know, we were up with 1:04 seconds left in the third quarter, and here we are up in the, with 1:04 seconds. Like, hey, let it go. Like, I get it. I understand it was magical. It changed all of our lives as Panther fans, but let's create something new at this point. So let's kind of let that go.
The thing that really sucks about losing a Super Bowl is like all the cool stuff that happened that year is like haunting.
Doesn't matter.
Well, no, but like I have that awesome cartoon T-shirt that I think Joey Ellis, is that his name, drew for Greg Olson with the caravan, where they're all like hanging out the sides, and like I have not. I love that shirt. I won't wear it. It just sits in my drawer. I see it every morning when I'm getting my socks or whatever else is in that drawer. I don't even know. And I'm like, that was fun, but I won't wear it.
I remember telling people back then, like the only downside about such a great season is every other season after that it's going to be pretty much impossible to live up to it.
Yeah.
15-1, like everybody's like, what can the Panthers do this year in 2016? It's like you don't duplicate what you just did last year. Like that doesn't happen 2 years in a row, right? I mean, so it's like Bobby
if you're
said,
the Patriots,
you can't.
It does, which sucks because I have to
not
sit here.
15-1 though. I mean,
True.
dominating seasons like that. Yeah. But I mean, the Patriots, they go to multiple Super Bowls, but you're not going to have a 15-1, 16-0 season run through the Super Bowl with a quarterback MVP every single year. And Bobby's completely right. Like, and it's going to be like this for years, whether or not we like it or not. It's always going to be like, oh, well, in 2015 this happened. In 2015 we did this. In 2015 we had them. And like, yes, and Bobby's right. Yes, it was great, but no, we can't compare everything to that season. That season was special. We had a lot of things go our way, and we had a lot of, Cam Newton played obviously his best football of his career. We had a very stout defense that still doesn't get credit to this day, I think, in that season. So, I mean, Bobby's right. You can't always compare everything to that 2015 season. It's not fair.
2015 was the last time I think that we could throw the ball down the field, too. So that was
fair. Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to wrap it up here, but a few more things before we go. Again, the Panthers schedule from the Roaring Riot or in the Riot Report. Technically the same thing, but over there on the side of the screen there. Make sure you go get that on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I think it's maybe not the best place to screenshot it, but you know where to get stuff. You know where to steal photos. we're giving you this one. This isn't a steal, though. Again, you have all the games there. You can throw it on your phone. Shout out to Jamie, Kevin, Lauren, all the people over at the Riot Report who helped put that together, and it's looking good. I'm into it. I already got it on my phone here. But also, speaking of the Roaring Riot, don't forget the Bank of America Stadium draft party is next Thursday. Tripp and I, we won't be there because we'll be down at the other draft party. But again, they're starting at 5 p.m., free to not only members, but also anyone that wants to go check out a Roaring Riot, kind of a free trial, if you will. You can go check out the DJ, the music, I don't know, beers from Noda, Spike Seltzer. I'm trying to read off my screen here. It's really small. But you get the point. We're having a big tailgate down at the stadium before the draft party. You can go check out the draft party in the stadium. Again, Tripp and I will be down at the Tin Roof in Nashville, Music City, Riot. We're going to be hanging out with you guys, giving away some Riot stuff Thursday and Friday during the day before the draft, so we won't take any time away from you going and hang out at any of the events. A lot of that stuff kicks off at about 4 p.m. So come hang out with us.
I'll be down there too.
Yeah. Come hang out with us from at the draft, you mean? I was like, I hope you'll be down there. I have a headset.
Well, no, I mean, like, I'll be going down there checking out other events after we're done too.
Exactly. So we're actually both attending the draft. So yeah, we'll be wrapping that up. The Tin Roof does open their doors. Well, not that they won't be open, but is advertising their event at 5 p.m. for the whole every fan base. So it's going to be an open event, but we're getting the Panthers fans there early. We're going to be hanging out, talking Panthers with, like I said, a bunch of guests that you've probably heard of. So come out, hang out with us, get some Panthers swag, and then we'll head over to the draft. And, man, this stuff really creeped up on us, Tripp. And like I said, next time I talk to you, we'll be down there in Nashville just a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, couldn't wait for it, and then it'll be gone in like 10 minutes. So that's how it goes.
Oh man, well hey,
Panthers tickets now on sale, by the way, y'all.
there you go. Go check out your Panthers tickets, and hey,
Oh, I got to get those Rams tickets. Got to go to that one.
that's gonna be a
Man,
fun
I was
one.
looking at those Rams tickets and I was like, did we make the playoffs or something that I don't know about? Because these prices right here.
I'm sure.
All right, hey Tripp and Bobby, that's gonna do it for us. Thanks for you guys hopping on over on Panthers Source again. Nice to have kind of the two crowds here. We're gonna be doing this again next time live. So good stuff, Tripp, Bobby. Thanks for joining tonight. Again, thanks to the Riot Network and our friends over at Ortho Carolina for making this all possible. Go ahead and check out our friends over on the Riot Network as well. It is what it is. One-day contract, the Roaring Riot podcast, and the Great British Drafting Show with Vince Richardson, who actually crushes the draft talk. He'll be joining us down in Nashville as well. So, hey, next time we talk, we'll be talking about who's on the clock, and hope to see a lot of you guys in Nashville. We'll catch you guys down there, and you guys have a good night and keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Peace.